All right, my list is couple subtle changes on the list this week. I'm interested to see how you mapped yours out. But the Fine Five, Ugly Five, let's go into the Ugly Five first. Who's your fifth worst team in the league?
All right, I do have some changes when it comes to my Ugly Five. Number 5 for me is the Dolphins. I just feel like it's the same stinking Dolphins every single year at this point. They did draft Tua for a reason, but you don't have that right now. And you look at the AFC East, they're continuing to be in the same spot every year, and I don't see anything changing unless, a major change happens in the quarterback position. So for me, I'm going 5, the Dolphins.
I considered them, but they fought hard. I mean, they hung in there against the Bills. They did fight back. I mean, they had a tough game there. I went with Minnesota. I mean, this is a team that has been extremely disappointing. And you know where they're really bad? Their defense is right now the worst in the entire league. They've given up more points than any team in football. Garbage. And they absolutely overplayed their hand by giving up Diggs. We talk about Wentz here. Cousins looks like a lost soul. He is zoning in on Thielen, and that is it out there. So thanks, by the way, for giving me Dalvin Cook, you bastards.
That's right. I forgot about that.
They're the fifth worst team in football right now, and it's all because, it's not all because. I just said Cousins is really struggling, but that defense is the worst in football. They've given up more points than any team in the entire NFL right now. So that's number 5 for me. Number 4, I went with, you're going to see them this weekend. I went with Cincinnati, and why I think they're getting better, their differential's only -8. They still have a long ways to go to become a winning football team. And you heard Baldy, what he said earlier. If you lose to this team, you got a lot of problems. They got problems on the defensive side of the ball. Their offensive line is still very leaky. They got some, nice offensive weapons with Mixon and A.J. Green and Boyd, and obviously Burrows. But I think their defense is still a big problem, and their offensive line is really – I think still Cincinnati's looking at 4-12, 5-11.
Before I give my number 4, the reason why I didn't put Minnesota in my 5 is the same reason why the Eagles won't be on there, and it's, yes, they've been awful through the first 2 weeks. I just don't know if that's who they really are, though, yet. I need to see them be this bad for a long period of time before I go, you know what, this Minnesota team is just awful. So I guess it's just I think the law of averages will work out for them. My number 4 is Detroit. That coaching staff has no idea what they're doing. Matt Patricia, you talk about garbage. He is garbage. He's got no clue. He's in over his head. They will never win anything, it seems. That Lion, I feel bad for Matthew Stafford because if he's on a team, if Bill Belichick had Matthew Stafford, come on, it would be a completely different story around this guy. And you can say that about any other coach in any other organization for the most part, other than a handful, and you look at Matthew Stafford differently. It's got to be the Lions at number 4.
I have him at number 3, dumpster fire. I had him to start the season at number 5, and people were like, they got Stafford back. And no, dumpster fire. Patricia's awful. The team's terrible. Culture's awful out there. They got rid of Caldwell, who was 9-7, and they brought this clown in who has done nothing but just bungle games. They're the second worst defense in the league. Their offense stinks. They're the Detroit Lions, and you're perpetually one of the ugly 5 teams in the league simply because you're Detroit. And guess what? Your play on the field doesn't seclude you from that. You stink at that too. Lions, number 3.
All right, well, we flip-flopped 4s and 3s because my number 3 is Cincinnati. And I agree with you perfectly, or, I agree with you completely when you say they're getting better. And you look at their differential, it's not like they're getting blown out. They're in there, they're involved, but there are a ton of holes where it's going to hold this team back. They're intriguing. There's no doubt they're intriguing. Joe Burrow, I really liked what he did last game on Thursday Night Football against Cleveland. I thought he showed a lot of promising stuff. And he does seem to be like a baller that everybody looks back at and goes, all right, this guy's going to put us in a good position. So I like them. There's just a lot of holes on that roster right now. So for that reason, I still have them in my ugly 5, and they're at 3.
All right, number 2, who you got there?
I have Washington. There's no way that this team is going to be able to move the football all that well throughout this season. I mean, I just don't believe in Dwayne Haskins and what they have. And then on top of that, while I really do enjoy their front on the defensive side and what they can bring to the table from a rush standpoint, you don't have great corners. You don't have great secondary pieces. And with that and the offense combined, I'm just not ready to look at the Washington football team as anything serious. They're my number 2.
Washington didn't make my 5 this week. They were out of it last week, too, so they've got out of there 2 weeks in a row. They did start off at number 3, but I thought their defense played well enough in the first week. Not last week so much. Their defense didn't play great last week. I got the Giants at number 2. I mean, the Giants, look, at the beginning of the year, I had them at 4. They stayed at 4, even though they didn't win. But now they've not only lost Saquon Barkley. And I hate to see that happen. I'm not sitting here rooting for the fact that they lost Barkley. I love watching that kid play, and it sucks that he is out right now. Without him, I mean, yeah, they added Freeman. Then they put a receiver on the list today, Sterling Shepard. They put him on the injured list today. Their line still stinks. Their defense still stinks, although it's gotten a little bit better. I just don't see that team. I mean, without Saquon Barkley, I mean, really, they got nothing. The Shepard kid's out. I don't think Jones is equipped to lead, this team by himself. I see a long 3-13, 4-12 season again for the Giants. I mean, not that I like that. I don't like Barkley being hurt. I wouldn't mind if they were 3-13 if Barkley played. Without him, man, I do feel legitimately bad for that kid.
Definitely. Nobody wants to see anybody get injured, especially a special talent like Saquon Barkley. They'll probably be on my list as they continue to fall. I would imagine that this would make life super hard for Daniel Jones at this point because the threat of Barkley is something that would open up more field for him to operate. For my number 1, though, we're going to stick in New York, and this Jets team has no identity. They're abysmal. Adam Gase is a joke. What is Sam Darnold? What is Sam Darnold? I have no idea what he is. And is he bad because of what you have in the head coach? Is he just that awful of a coach that he can't put Sam Darnold in any position? And then you look at where they are when it comes to wide receivers. They don't have anybody who's a threat. Le'Veon Bell is injured. They're going through injuries. They are so awful. And, I mean, I don't know if that head coach can even make it through the season.
I would be surprised. I have the Jets, too. And look, they have the only team that scored less points than the Jets this year are the Giants. And obviously they had some injuries there that have helped that. Their defense is not very good. The head coach has been completely just mocked and laughed at. It just seems that he has no respect out there. You talked about Le'Veon Bell. They put him on the injured list. He says, my hamstrings are fine. Just completely mismanaging Darnold. They have no talent at wide receiver. Their defense doesn't bring much to the table. They don't seem to give a whole heck of a lot of effort. What are the players today were saying that our coaches, our practices are lethargic? I mean, it just seems that Gase is that guy that's just you're waiting for the day where they just decide, all right, we're blowing him out and we're just going to sleepwalk through this season with a new coach. But the Jets are definitely number 1 in the ugly 5. So there you go. There are ugly 5 teams, 5 worst teams on the season so far for us. Let's go over to the Fine 5. Who are the 5 best teams in the league right now? Number 5 for me, I'm going with Aaron Rodgers in the Green Bay Packers. 85 points, defense better this year, plus 30 on the differential. But Rodgers is really the key to it all. He's really played well. I did not believe in the Packers last year. I feel better about them this year. I think their team's better this year than last year. I'll go Packers, number 5.
My number 5, I hope I'm not too premature here, but the New England Patriots look good. They really do. This whole Cam Newton thing is working out. Now, they lost to Seattle on Sunday night, but they were in it. They could have won the game. It came down to the wire. It came down to a run play there at the goal line, which they gave it to Cam Newton to try and run. They look scary. I mean, I feel as if they can definitely make things happen. And the thing that's wild, too, is when everyone was opting out, so many big pieces for the Patriots were opting out, not playing. And all of us were laughing, oh, this is going to be a bad year for the Patriots then. And here they have a special talent in Cam Newton with Josh McDaniels, who's obviously very creative when it comes to his offensive scheme. Maybe I'm a little premature, but I'm going out on a limb here, and I'm going to put the Patriots as number 5 because I can smell something brewing in that city once again.
All right, number 4, I'm going with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I said it before the season. If they get back Big Ben, they went 8-8 last year. That should be at least 2 more wins for them, maybe more. Well, right now they're off to a good start, and it's because their defense has been really good, but Big Ben's been a huge part of it. He spreads the ball around, and look, they got some good weapons out there. You might not recognize a lot of the names, but that's because Roethlisberger just does a good job of getting them all the ball and kind of letting them all kind of do their thing. their team is much more equipped now with Ben Roethlisberger at quarterback than they were last year with the Ducky Hodges. But they got some nice weapons at wide receiver, Juju, Deontay Johnson, James Washington, the tight end, Ebron. I like what they bring to the table offensively, and their defense is much better this year. So I like Pittsburgh right now at number 4.
At number 4 for me, I am going with Green Bay. You nailed it with Aaron Rodgers. And last year you looked at that team, and they did win a lot of games, but you just questioned, how good are they really? It seemed like they were getting the victories. The win column was going up, but there wasn't a true vibe that team could really make that next push and really win it all last year. This year, totally a different season. The team is flying around, scoring a bunch of points and doing what they need to do effectively. And it all starts with Aaron Rodgers, who is a bad, bad man, as they say.
He has definitely picked up his play this year. All right, number 3. I'm going with the Seattle Seahawks. They beat New England in a great game on Monday night. Quarterback's fantastic. You know, one little problem that worries me about them a little bit is the injury to Bruce Irvin up front, which means their pass rush. They don't have a great pass rush to begin with, and he was the guy they signed, Irvin, to come back in to give them some pass rush. So losing him might hurt them a little bit there. That does concern me, but I really like watching their offense, man. Wilson and Carson and Metcalf and Lockett. They're tough, and Jamal Adams really changes that defense around. I love the linebacker Wagner. They won that game the other night with Diggs got thrown out of the game, and they still were able to win the game. So I'll give Seattle another ride at number 3.
I have Seattle at 3 as well, and I don't know what he was thinking trying to make that hit. I mean, you couldn't be more head-to-head contact on what he was doing up the middle there. You talked about their offense. There's no doubt that is a very entertaining part of that team with Russell Wilson doing the magic that he does. But then you hit on Jamal Adams. And to me, he can make up for so much, and you can utilize him in so many different spots. We all laughed at the package it took to get him, and it was hefty. He is a difference maker. So you talk about the lack of pass rush. Well, can you utilize Jamal Adams in a way where, you know, he blitzes, he does this, he does that. He does so much and covers so much of the field where someone like Jamal Adams can maybe make up for that lack of pass rush and the injuries.
He's fun to watch flying around. They have the kid in Oakland, Las Vegas, too, Abram. He's another guy that comes up and hits you and flies all over. The Eagles don't have a safety like that, man.
They did. Although, if you saw what Malcolm Jenkins did on Monday Night Football, you can say that it was the right move.
Yeah, he wasn't. I mean, those guys are a little bit different safety than Malcolm Jenkins is. I mean, he's more. I mean, those guys are more, you know, come up and hit you, and more physical. I think I use the word savvy a lot. Jenkins was a very savvy safety, where, you know, Adams and Abram are just physical guys. I mean, it's like Troy Polamalu type of guys as opposed to, say, Ed Reed, you know? Like, Reed was just a ball-hawking guy. Polamalu would come up and smoke you.
Right. And to be honest with you, Malcolm was essentially a linebacker towards the end here, no?
Yeah, I mean, he did a lot more in the box. All right, let's go to number 2. Who do you got?
I have the Ravens. I think that they're just cruising. They're doing their thing. As long as they just continue to go on this ride, I don't think they're really going anywhere in my standings unless they fall apart, which I don't imagine happening.
And I got Kansas City this week. They flip-flopped with Baltimore. I got Kansas City number 2. They went on the road. They really struggled. You hear what Baldy said, that, you know, not playing with people, they didn't seem all that juiced up. But, you know, as much as, look, I know Kansas City won the Super Bowl last year. I think Baltimore looked better this year. Kansas City looked better this year than they did last year, but they've given up 22 points. I mean, they've been dominant this year, and their offense is better. They've scored 71. They've given up 22. Kansas City scored 57. They've given up 40. I think the Chargers are just an average team at best, and they struggled a little bit on the road. They needed 3 50-plus field goals to win. Baltimore, to me, has been the most dominant team in the league. Bar none.
That's a good point. No, that's fair. That's very fair. I think it's reasonable to put the Ravens at 1 based off of what you saw the Chiefs do in that last game and the field goals, and it was wild. It was a very entertaining game without a doubt. I just think the Chiefs have a little more still, even though it was an ugly game. And I can only imagine how tough it is to get hyped up when you're so used to running out to 60-something thousand people to, 5.
Yeah, right? 5. Well, if you're playing the Chargers, it'd probably only be 5 anyway.
Touche.
That is our Fine 5, Ugly 5 after 2 weeks of NFL football.